Information-Driven Branch Conjecture, IBC. Information paradox is a type of bootstrap paradox in which information about an event travels backwards through time and influences that event, either constructively or destructively. As a true paradox, it is not allowed by causality. Information-driven branching is the universal solution to this paradox. Instead of influencing the event from which the information originated, the timeline splits, and the information is allowed to influence a duplicate. I step out of the warp sack in a quiet part of town a few miles away from our old house. The sky is overcast, and the air is thick with petrichor. People rarely walk the streets at times like this. I guess that's what made it such a dangerous time for him to be out playing. I head up the street. Ancient pathways in the forest of my mind are waking up, crusty-eyed, shaking off the dust and whispering old forgotten stories to the long-civilized parts of my consciousness. I find it uncanny. Houses and storefronts in this part of town look exactly as they always did. Places that I never bothered recollecting enough times for their images to become warped and foggy hit me with a torrent of strange sentimentality. The phenomenon reverses as I get closer to the place. I pass a friend's house that looks wrong somehow. Paint on the walls that I could have sworn had always been brick. A garden on the side of the house where I'd always remembered a driveway being. I clearly remember sitting on that porch with Wayne, eating bologna sandwiches and arguing about trading cards. The memory clashes with what I see, and my mind is adamant that I must have traveled to some parallel world. Inside that house right now, little Wayne is probably sitting in his room. He might even be watching some stranger pass by his window, not realizing that it's me. I worry that I might not be able to find myself. I've remembered it all so many times over the years, I'm almost definitely not where I think I was that day. I head to the spot anyway, to that little neighborhood park, and as luck would have it, there I am. It's a feeling I doubt I could ever get used to. My stomach doesn't know where we are or what we're doing here, but some part of it must recognize the kid on the swing set because it does a double take and flips around inside me. I feel a little dizzy, but approach the child calmly. The park is strange to look at. It had always been such a place of adventure and imagination for little me. Most of my memories here are more of the games and stories we made up than of the place itself. The sandbox behind the swings erupts into a vast desert in my mind's eye. Those two small trees in the corner had always become a deep and expansive forest. The clovers in the grass were the titanic foliage of a tiny leprechaun empire, and the swings themselves were vehicles that could launch us into space. I approach the little astronaut as the craft re-enters the atmosphere and wave. Little me looks at myself with an unconcerned curiosity. I'm only half glad for the lack of fear. The child does not speak. I know myself well enough to recognize this as a deference to the authority of elders. "You look like you're having fun," I say. "Mind if I join?" "Okay," says my former self. I sit on the swing beside myself, wondering how to proceed. I know where my brother is right now. That much was well recorded, not something I'd have ever left up to chance. "You got a family?" I ask. Little me doesn't recognize this as a stupid question. "Yeah, my brother's up the road by the river." "Oh, is he?" I lean in real close, trying to seem serious without being scary. "You know, sometimes rivers can be dangerous. If you fall in, the water will sweep you away, sometimes forever." The kid looks confused by the statement, but I can see the gears are turning. I look out at the clouds on the horizon, trying my best to let the nostalgia overpower my sense of urgency. Finally, the swing stops, and my former self leaps down into the dirt groove beneath, saying, "You're weird," before darting off up the street. I don't want to lose both of us this time, so I follow at a distance. Pretty soon, the youngsters are walking side by side back towards home, poking at things on the sidewalk with a long stick and calling each other stupid. I make sure they get into the door before crawling back into my portal. Back home, I go to Mom and Dad's place for dinner. There's a picture of those kids on the mantle, the last picture of him before it happened. That's the oldest either of them will ever see him, but that's a little easier to swallow knowing that somewhere out there among the boughs of Yggdrasil, the four of us are having dinner together. Isaiah tumbles through the network with a purpose. His jaws clench upon the burnt, silvery flavor of the rail's tracks through time and space. The branches are difficult to tell apart. In each timeline, the skittering pathway through reality is as burnt and acrid as the last. The vast grayness of eternity swallows him, removing him from time. The moments and places whirl past. a blur of rapidly changing aromas that leak in from the tendrils formed by his body leaking out into physicality. First, a bakery, the swelling sour and sweet of yeast and sugar. Then suddenly, the searing chemical burn of perfume in some department store. He finds his way outside to the dusty hot concrete, along a sidewalk where the bitter of tree leaves guides him to the place where businesses give way to homes. Miles and miles of homes with layers upon layers of shed skin and carpet shampoo give way to the skull-rattling vibrations of icy water flowing down from melting snow way off in the mountains. He finds the spot by the scent of algae and muck in the dammed-up fishing hole. That has been the easiest place to do it thus far. He used to go there all the time as a kid, even in those timelines that branched off real early on, provided the family never moved out to another city. Those branches he's leaving for later. With any luck, Isaiah, former on those roads, might have made his way to something better. One of him might have found a way to fix things out there. For now, he can afford to stay local. He has all the time in the world. He can feel his younger self staring dumbly at the ripples in the rocky pools along the shore. Not looking for frogs or playing a game, just enjoying the glittery sunlight like some mindless insect. Blissfully unaware of all the years to come. Barely even conscious. He folds forwards, leaning into the overpowering stench of stagnant water and fish grown fat on industrial runoff. Reality yanks at him through the nostrils. It knows he's found his way into the crevices where mortals don't belong. It's trying to arrest him. He allows the universe to think that it's getting its way. The water bubbles and space shivers. Invisible strands of static electricity fill the air as something emerges from the water. A specter, an ethereal golem. The guiding hand of time made manifest in the form of a primate born on a rock in space. He is a herald of the old gods, those far above the flat and unmerciful creator that arrogantly forged this world. He has come to save someone from becoming him.